Hello, AP students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your short answer questions for Chapter 10. So, number one, name the source of energy that Freud viewed as driving sensual pleasure. That would be the libido. And number two, what are the terms Freud uses to describe our life and death instincts? And that is the eros and thanatos. Number three, an example of a conflict that might be faced by the id, the ego, and the superego. An example would be like the id would like to drive fast, really fast, and the superego would basically say that you shouldn't drive fast because you'll break the law. But the ego has to mediate between, and so the ego probably decides that you're going to drive the speed limit. And number four, name the 5 social sexual stages that Freud identified. That would be the oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. Number 5, briefly explain why we use defense mechanisms. And we use defense mechanisms to protect our conscious from letting in information that would threaten us. And number 6, what's the rationale for a projective test? Name 2 tests that fall into this category. And a projective test, it's the idea that a person is asked to describe a vague stimulus, and they will project part of their thoughts or their unconsciousness into the description of that. And so examples of that would be the Rorschach ink blot test or the TAD or the thematic apperception test. Number 7. Carl Jung divided unconsciousness into personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. Personal unconscious is very much like what Sigmund Freud talked about, but the collective unconsciousness is the reservoir of unconscious thoughts and memories that really are from all of our ancestors. And number 8, Carl Jung's concept of the animus explains the masculine or male archetypes, whereas the anima explains the feminine or the female archetypes. And number 9, Karen Horney discusses 3 patterns of attitudes and behaviors that people use to deal with their basic anxiety, and that is like moving towards an issue or something, someone, moving away, and then moving against others. And number 10, what types of subjects did Abraham Maslow use to form his theories of personality? He basically sought out historical personas, such as Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson, and you could probably throw in Eleanor Roosevelt in there as well. Number 11, Alfred Bandura, his idea of reciprocal determinism involved what 3 forces, and that is the environment, our behavior, and cognition, how we think about that. And number 12, what are the 4 humors that Hippocrates believed influenced our behavior? And that would be blood, black bile, yellow bile, and mucus or phlegm. Number 13, some modern psychologists describe people in terms of enduring personality characteristics called traits. These clusters of traits are simply known as types. Number 14, name the big 5 personality traits. And you could either use it in terms of ocean or canoe. You have conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism, that's like your anxiety, openness to experience, and extroversion. Number 15, what personality test is often given to compare individuals on 10 clinical scales? And that would be the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. And today it's actually in the 2nd, so it might be known as the MMPI 2. And number 16, according to Michelle, when are personality variables most important in controlling behavior? And that's when we have situations that are ambiguous, meaning that they're very vague or weak. Personality variables will have their greatest impact on behavior when we start looking at those kind of situations. Number 17, what is the critique often waged against a Myers-Briggs personality inventory? And that is the fact that it scores low on measures of reliability and validity. So, in other words, it is possible that you can manipulate this test. And number 18, your personal explanation of how and why people behave the way they do is called your implicit personality theory. Number 19, explain why those individualistic societies are more likely to commit the fundamental attribution error. That is because they are more likely to blame individuals for their own behavior rather than the situation. All right, thank you very much.